Hello, how are you? Today, I've put together a list for you of some foods that should be eliminated from your shopping list and your home for good. Foods you should no longer consume. It might seem a bit radical, but there really are some foods that shouldn't be eaten because they're very harmful to your health. And there are other options that can easily replace them and are much healthier. Stay until the end because you won't want to miss them. If you love tips on nutrition, health, and fitness, you're going to love this channel. If you're new here, welcome, enjoy, subscribe, and remember to turn on the notification bell to receive updates. I have new videos every day. You're going to love them. Let's start talking about this list of foods that you shouldn't have at home or consume. Of course, ideally, you wouldn't eat them anymore, but if that's too hard, try to eliminate as much as possible from your diet because that will bring you many benefits. The first food on our list is those meats that you usually buy in the deli section of the supermarket. So sausage, bologna, salami, all these processed cured meats that you can tell have been heavily processed are not recommended. We shouldn't have them at home and should really consume as little as possible. If you can avoid them altogether, even better. That's because they're loaded with fat. In some of them, you can even see those white spots in the salami, in the sausage. Those are basically fat, little nodules of fat. They contain saturated fat, and many also have trans fat because they are ultra-processed. There's a lot of salt, and some studies have already found that these meats contain ingredients that are pro-carcinogenic. These are indeed ingredients that can potentially cause cancer in the future. Serious scientific studies have already proven this. Of course, if you eat a sausage every now and then, it's not a problem. But the issue is that many people choose to eat pasta with sausage on a daily basis, put salami in their sandwiches, and have the habit of eating these things regularly every day. You should avoid this more frequent consumption as much as possible, and always remember that there are alternatives. I even have a homemade sausage recipe here on the channel that turned out delicious, as well as recipes for chicken and pork mortadella, because the problem isn't pork itself. The problem is those ultra-processed foods. But if you don't want to make it yourself, remember that you can substitute these meats in any sandwich, in anything you would put in a pie, in bread. You can use tuna, sautéed ground beef, boiled eggs, shredded chicken. There are plenty of healthy, affordable, and interesting options. The second food on our list is soda. I think that if you can cut soda out of your life, it will be much better for you. That's because it has a combination of bad things. Of course, the first thing that really stands out is the huge amount of sugar it contains. It's like you're drinking liquid sugar. The amount of sugar is just absurd. It's much more than you would put in a juice or a homemade drink to sweeten it, like if you were adding sugar to tea or a beverage you prepare at home. The amount of sugar is extremely high. It contains phosphorus, which can harm your bone metabolism by removing some of the calcium from your bones, so it weakens your bones in the medium and long term. And often it also contains fructose syrup, which, along with excessive sugar consumption, is already linked to fat accumulation in the liver, metabolic syndrome, and fat gain in the central abdominal area, which is bad for appearance, but also very bad for the heart. If you would love to cut soda out of your life but can't manage to drink plain water, remember that you can have iced teas, you can have flavored waters. I have some recipes and I'll leave them down below in the description. You might think that none of this is a problem because I talked about regular soda and you drink diet, zero, or light soda, which doesn't have sugar. In reality, it will still have a lot of phosphorus, and in the vast majority of cases, I would say 90% or more, the sweetener used is of very poor quality, which is not healthy for you, and it contains a lot of sodium in its composition. Many times, the sodium content in soda is extremely high, even though it's a sweet beverage, so always pay attention to these details to help motivate yourself not to consume it. I have a video here where I talk more about how to quit drinking soda, because for some people it's actually an addiction. I'll leave it down below in the description. Another food you should avoid consuming as much as possible, avoid keeping in your house, and not give to your children or people who live with you is microwave popcorn. Microwave popcorn may seem harmless, but it contains a lot of fat. It contains the worst kind of fat there is, trans fat. Butter-flavored microwave popcorn has a compound in it that's actually harmful even to our lungs. So, that aroma, that smell from the popcorn can be harmful, causing inflammation and actual damage to our lungs. So, avoid microwave popcorn, especially because it often comes in packaging with plastic that isn't safe and can actually contain toxic compounds for the body. So, avoid consuming it. It's very easy to make microwave popcorn without having to buy those pre-packaged bags. You can take a paper bag, like those brown bread bags, put some popcorn kernels in it, add a drizzle of olive oil and some salt, close it up and pop it in the microwave yourself. There are also silicone microwave popcorn makers, or you can pop the kernels in some popcorn makers where you only need to add a drizzle of oil, very little, or even none at all. Those popcorn makers that spin on top like this, because that way you can control the amount of oil and salt. I have some healthy and delicious popcorn recipes, including sweet popcorn, and I'll leave them down below in the description. Another food that, if you haven't eliminated it yet, you should cut out of your life right now is margarine. Margarine is a very unhealthy fat. It's like taking everything bad about fats and putting it all into one ingredient, which is trans fat. Trans fat is a highly inflammatory fat. It builds up on the walls of blood vessels, causes atheroma plaques, and leads to many circulatory and inflammatory problems in our bodies. So it's much better for you to replace it. And believe it or not, a better substitute for margarine is butter. It's much better for you to consume butter in small amounts. Of course, it is a source of saturated fat and is very concentrated in fat. But butter is much less inflammatory and accumulates much less fat in the blood vessels than margarine. Ideally, it would be even better to substitute it with olive oil because it's a healthier fat. And wherever you would use margarine or butter, you can use olive oil instead, which is still super flavorful, even on bread, in recipes, in seasonings. There's a video here where I talk more about olive oil's benefits, and another where I discuss the best and worst cooking oils plus pork lard. I'll leave those below in the description for you. Another food you should avoid buying as much as possible and not keep in your house is those seasoning cubes, those ready-made seasonings you buy in a box. They usually come with several inside. There's chicken broth, beef broth, vegetable broth, sausage flavor, and seasonings in many different flavors. These seasonings, in reality, have very little or almost none of the actual food in them. They contain a lot of sodium, fat, and harmful agents like colorants, preservatives, stabilizers, monosodium glutamate. They're very bad for your health and make your taste buds crave that artificial flavor. So, because of the glutamate and other flavor enhancers, you end up getting kind of addicted to that saltier taste. So if you roast meat with one of those seasoning cubes and then make regular roasted or sauteed meat, it feels like something is missing. They do this to change your brain, so you keep seeking out that particular flavor. So avoid consuming it as much as possible. If you've been using it for a long time, it might take some time for your taste buds to readjust, but remember that it's possible. I have some seasoning recipes here that you can prepare in advance. Homemade, powdered, natural, and healthy seasonings. I'll leave these recipes below to inspire you. Another food you should avoid consuming as much as possible and never buy, never keep in your house so you're not tempted, is instant noodles, the kind that comes in a small individual package, usually with a packet of seasoning. A lot of people think that if they don't use the seasoning packet, it's not a problem because they know the seasoning is just like bouillon cubes, full of sodium, lots of fat, flavor enhancers. There's actually very little real seasoning in there. There's much more industrial, ultra-processed stuff in it. Some people skip the seasoning but still eat the noodles because they're quick to make. They only take 3 minutes. But these noodles are already pre-fried, so when you put them in water, you see that layer of oil, that oily sheen on the water. I have a video where I talk more about instant noodles and give some tips on how to make noodles at home, really quickly. After all, if you compare usually a traditional pasta, unless it's whole wheat, since whole wheat does take longer, but if it's not whole wheat, you can cook it in 7 minutes. So, from 3 to 7 minutes, it's really not much of a difference in your routine. It's more a matter of adapting and adding more vegetables and protein to lower the glycemic index. It will still be a quick meal, but much healthier. I'll leave my instant noodle video here, which has some other great tips, and I explain things in more depth there. Another product you should avoid buying, avoid keeping at home, and avoid eating as much as possible when you're out, is frozen French fries. Even when you're out, you can tell if the fries are frozen. Because they're too perfect, too processed, every piece looks exactly the same, unlike our homemade fries. If you take a potato at home, cut it up, and put it in a frying pan or in the air fryer or in the oven, it looks completely different from those industrialized fries. Those industrialized fries have already been pre-fried, often in trans fats. Of course, not all of them, but the vast majority of the cheaper ones use lower quality fats to cut costs. So, when you think it's not a problem because you bake them, you notice they get crispy, even bubbling in the oven. They get hard on the outside because they're already coated in oil. They've already been pre-fried. The most basic alternative is to do it like our grandmothers or mothers used to do. You peel the potato, cut it into sticks, and then you cook or fry it. Or you do it like I do sometimes, which I actually enjoy doing. Especially for my kids, I pre-cook the potatoes until they're al dente. Then I add a bit of olive oil to a frying pan and brown them, so they end up tasting like French fries, but they're much healthier and have much less fat. They don't stay in the oil for a long time to fry, because anyone who fries potatoes knows it really takes a long time to fry raw potatoes. They soak up a lot of oil, and that's not good. So you pre-cook the potato, then just brown it in the frying pan with a little olive oil, and it will still be crispy and will be a much healthier option for you. And another food you should avoid as much as possible, whether consuming or buying, is filled cookies. Any kind of them, those traditional round filled cookies, wafer cookies. That's because these cookies are very high in carbohydrates, with a high glycemic index, a lot of sugar. Sometimes they contain fructose syrup, glucose syrup, and that soft filling that melts in your mouth. Once again, that's trans fat, which is highly pro-inflammatory. So, it's a terrible option for you to consume frequently. Of course, nowadays there are some sandwich cookies that don't contain trans fat, which would be a less bad option, but even so, they still have a lot of fat, calories, and sugar. So ideally, you should try making your own cookies at home and store them in jars or tightly sealed bags. They'll last about 5 days, pretty much the whole week, and you can enjoy them more comfortably. I'll leave a playlist of cookie recipes down below to inspire you. Let me know down below which of these foods surprised you the most, which one you're going to stop eating, and which one will be the hardest to resist. I'd love to see your comment. Like the video, as that really helps me out, and share it with anyone who would enjoy it or needs it. Let's work together to spread this positive movement, because that's what I want for this channel. See you next time. Bye.